Thank you. This is the geeky part. I'm going to show a video first, just so you'll get an idea of what this stuff was.
Inventor McAvinney has made a computer screen that can sense the position of several fingers at once, taking the concept of a computer touch screen one step further.
At the prestigious Carnegie Institute in Pittsburgh, composer Rezzavelli is the first to compose for the video harp, and Preview captured his debut concert performance. McAvinney has taken the invention a step further in creating the stage frame, a video harp that you can actually get into. Instead of blocking the light with your fingers, you block it with your body, a performance artist's dream.
The stage frame can break down the distinction between the instrumentalist and the dancer and the choreographer and the composer. One person can do all of these things at the same time. Okay. Anyway, that was the stage frame. It was, as he said, a video harp that was big enough to get inside. What I was trying to do with all this stuff was to capture human expression. And let me just, okay. The point here is that useful information in the world resides in humans, not in computers. So we've got to move the information from us to the computer rather than the other way around. I'm gonna start with these slides by giving you a little history of computer-human interfaces. They actually, aside from the typewriter, which everybody knows about, they go back to World War II, where a guy named Ralph Benjamin invented a thing called a trackball for the Royal Navy, and the ball in this picture was about as big as a bowling ball, I think. If you turned this thing over, it would almost be a mouse. Notice it was built with tubes. Speaking of which, when I started programming computers, some of them were still made with tubes, and I've actually walked around inside a running central processor unit. But, anyway, a UNIVAC 2, I think it was. I'm going to skip ahead to the mouse. In the late 60s, I was working for a company called Sperry Gyroscope Company on Long Island that built the inertial navigation system for the Polaris missile system. And they, for some strange reason, they sent me out to a place called Stanford Research Institute to visit this guy, Doug Engelbart, who had invented the mouse. He actually invented it in '63, and it didn't actually get into mass production until much later in 1984 with the Apple Macintosh. Doug was a neat guy. He also invented multiple overlapping windows. He had this running back in the late '60s, and the mouse, the first mouse here, had two little wheels at right angles, and they put it on a piece of glass so that the wheel that wasn't moving could scrape along and it squeaked. So I think that's why they called it a mouse. I don't know, it had a tail too. I just, since our MC is a high school teacher, I threw a slide in here about high school. I only mention this because Xerox later developed the mouse. And when I was in high school in Rochester, New York, myself and some other geeky kids built a seismograph station in the basement of the school, and Xerox gave us the prototype of their first Xerox. That's me in the middle at 16 in 1959, I think. And so they gave us that to use as a readout for this. So anyway, I just threw that in. I'm going to move ahead to the early '80s. I wanted I was interested in computer music, so I wanted a way to, conduct music, and I thought it would be nice if you could put an image of an orchestra on the screen and point to the violins and say play louder. And I called up a touchscreen. There actually were touchscreen companies, that sensed single fingers back in the early '80s, and I called one up and asked, can you build me one that'll sense more than one finger? And they said, why would anybody want that? So I took that as a clue to do it. I was not the only inventor of touchscreens. The capacitive touchscreen you use on your phone was actually invented at Bell Labs. There was a guy named Myron Kruger at the University of Connecticut who did some neat things with light on light tables. What I was trying to do in the early '80s was build a frame that you could fit around your computer monitor and hopefully sense more than one finger. So you can see that picture on the left is the first sensor frame, as we called it, and he was using multiple fingers. And this is something that was, I think this picture appeared on front of NASA Tech Briefs or something like that. They gave me some money to build a 3D version of this. One of the reasons I wanted to use optical scanning was I figured maybe we could get some 3D stuff out of it, get finger angles and things like that. The breakthrough here was, optical sensors then were very expensive. If you bought a video camera, it might cost you $1,200, but the sensor inside was $800, So I had read somewhere that somebody had discovered that computer memory chips, what engineers call DRAMs, dynamic random access memories, are actually sensitive to infrared light. And I thought, hey, if I could use these, they'd be a lot cheaper. So that's really what these things were. They use these little chips, and it seemed like a neat idea, and we actually even started up a company to produce these sensor frames. And just as we were getting into production, the company that was making this called us up and said, guess what? We shut down the fab line 2 months ago, and we can't deliver your chips. So we had some left. We had about 100, and we figured, what the hell? Let's build a musical instrument. So, so we built the video harp, which you saw in the picture there. It was intended to be an instrument that would it would sense any class of gestures like bowing, strumming, percussion, keyboarding, whatever, and then let you plug any class of gesture into any class of instrument. So you could, bow a horn or strum something other than a stringed instrument. Anyway, around 1985, doing this multi-finger stuff, I thought we needed a way to describe gestures. So I developed a gesture notation, and I don't know if you can see this from back there, but this was about, I think it was May or so of '85, and you can see an example on the right of a pinch to zoom gesture. A lot of people think this came along, back in 2007 or something like that, but we were actually talking about it at Carnegie Mellon in the mid '80s, and other people later claimed they invented this. Like a guy visited us who had just been fired from Apple, and he as you can see his note there, we guessed that you use DRAMs. So anyway, whatever Apple is telling you about pinch to zoom, I think they got there a little late. But here's a picture of the video harp, circa 1989. We produced about 8 of these. The whole problem with inventing a new musical instrument is, there are no endowed chairs in orchestras for video harps. It was priced too high, and basically at that point I just decided, well, we can't really make a living on this. I better put it out of business, and so the company closed down around '91 or so. And anyway, that's the past of this stuff. Now, optical gesture sensing is not dead. Current technologies, if you've seen the Microsoft Surface, it's a table, and several people can stand around it. It can sense any number of fingers. I don't think there's really a limit, but it's two-dimensional. And then there's a Microsoft Connect that senses, body motion, rough hand gestures, things like that. That's a neat idea. The whole problem with optical sensing is that if you do something that hides your fingers, it's hard to track your fingertips. And around 92, about the time my wife and I moved into this area, I was starting to think, maybe optical gesture sensing isn't the way to go. You really need to be able to feel what you're doing. So, for example, you screw a nut onto a bolt. You need a lot more than just a mouse. The position of the bolt requires 6 degrees of freedom. In other words, be able to move it along X, Y, or Z axis and then rotate about these. If you screw a nut into a bolt, you need more. But we haven't even talked about grasping something. And when you're using a computer-aided design system, something like that, you want to make use of all these freedoms that you have, because if you don't, you try to squeeze it into a 2D device like a mouse, it takes forever. So imagine trying to use a mouse to screw a nut onto a bolt. Every system would probably do it differently, and you wind up with a sort of a Tower of Babel. Well, right now we're seeing some really interesting technology coming along, like the Google glasses, the Oculus Rift, which is a gamer's machine that can track your motion in real time. Neat stuff. Sony's doing a thing called Project Morpheus, which is similar to that. There's a company in my hometown of Rochester, Vuzix, that's making these things. This stuff is changing very quickly. What I would like to see is, first of all, in terms of your sensing, have something that can go smoothly between a totally immersed environment on the one hand and an environment where you have just a head-up display, information displayed to you about your surroundings, and you should be able to go smoothly between these things. And that technology is just beginning to appear. We need to capture all the motion of the human body, not leave any out, and we need to be able to feel what we're doing. So I think what's going to happen as a result of this is we're going to see things that I call extensors, or exoskeleton, essentially, that you wear that will sense your motions. And they'll probably come in a couple of different flavors. The big problem with these things is that if they're connected to the net, they can be hacked. And so you don't want somebody grabbing your arms and strangling you. So I can see why you might want an autonomous one with a switch that you can just switch if you can get to the switch. That's a problem. Anyway, what are the applications? Computer-aided design, games, teleoperation, manipulating remote things, bioengineering, manipulating molecules, transport. You can add legs to this thing, have an exoskeleton, and walk to work with a little less effort. Needless to say, exercise machines. There's a scaled-up exoskeleton. I think the guy is a little thing in the middle there. I would be a little afraid to have one around the house. You probably, my time's up. Okay, anyway. Okay, all I want to say about these things is I think they'll make us a lot more productive and more fun. They are a bit dangerous. And I just wanted to say one thing, too, about geeks. Scientists tell us where the universe came from. Engineers are going to determine where it goes. So let's do it.